When looking at a PC handheld, there's about 5 different categories that are important to a lot of people, myself included. I want the device to have some power to it. It doesn't need to match an RTX 5090 or anything like that, but it should be able to play a lot of games, and even some of the newer ones at respectable frame rates. The screen should be a standout feature. OLED being the best that you can do, of course, and if you can do OLED and a refresh rate higher than 60 Hz, like 90 Hz or 120 or 144 Hz, we are absolutely happy. The handheld needs to be comfortable for long periods of time and in different scenarios. No sharp edges, blocky parts, or any weirdness. Just straight curves and comfort, baby. It's a PC handheld, so it should play a wide variety of games, with the best scenario being the ability to dual boot Bazzite and Windows at the same time, and it gets you the best of both worlds. Lastly, the battery should be good enough to last you at least 2 hours in a normal setting, playing some games. I think that is the bare minimum for a lot of people, and myself included. So why, after all of this, is the number of handhelds that hit all of those notes so small, especially in 2025? And why is an unknown company in OneXPlayer making one of the best handhelds that I've ever used, hitting all of those notes with the OneXFly F1 Pro that you see here today, and we're going to talk about today. Hey everyone, Joey here, and today we're going to talk all about the OneXFly F1 Pro. I went on vacation a few weeks ago, and in the weeks leading up to it, I was deciding what handheld I wanted to bring, and the stars aligned, and I decided to just buy the OneXFly. I held one earlier this year at CES. I loved the feel of it, but I just never pulled the trigger on a purchase. Turns out it arrived after my vacation, so I kind of failed there. But I absolutely can't believe how good this handheld is. Nobody sent me this for a review, none of that. Bought it with my own money, and I'm shocked. So we're going to talk about the OneXFly today, how good it is, but first, we have to talk about Ugreen. Okay, so don't judge me, but my couch table stand looks like this. There's cables everywhere. It's pretty awful, but hey, I need to charge my devices, especially the OneXFly, and there has never been a better way. So imagine my absolute surprise when Ugreen comes out with retractable power banks, chargers, and cables. Yeah, retractable. No more messy cables. They just go home where they came from. Hassle-free in every way. Their Nexode 165 watt retractable power bank sure would have come in handy on my recent vacation. It does 100 watts on a single USB-C, or 165 watts via 2 USB-C ports, and it has a cool, smart TFT display. That is super fast charging, especially when using a laptop, my phone, and a handheld like my OneXFly here, which can hit full wattage still. It has a 20,000 milliamp hour capacity, and it can fully charge an iPhone 16 up to 3.8 times. But honestly, just pulling out and using the 2-foot retractable cable makes all the difference. And it is a durable cable too, which can handle around 20 kilograms of weight. Super sturdy. Just when you thought chargers were getting boring, Ugreen brings out their lineup of retractable power banks, 65 watt charger, and cables to wake us up. Check out Ugreen's Prime Day deals in the description for up to 40% off. And we're back, and we're going to take a look at the top of the device. We have nice analog Hall triggers and soft shoulder buttons. We should probably get this out of the way right now, but I think this might be one of the quieter handhelds that I have ever owned, as essentially every button on this device is as close to silent as you can get, and in some cases you can barely hear anything. We have a fairly recessed power button, but a complete opposite with the volume buttons. They stick out a fair bit, and it's a bit of a minor annoyance to me, but I get why they did it. There is a 3.5mm headphone jack, and not just a USB-C 4.0 port, but also a USB-A port, which is always a welcome addition. That USB 4 port means eGPU support, which is always great as well. Now, blink and you miss it, and I actually missed it for a good week of me owning this handheld, but there are actually 2 extra buttons here at the top, right next to the shoulder buttons, which at least in Bazzite have extra functionality for hotkeys and such. On the bottom of the device, we have down-firing speakers that shockingly sound pretty good, as they are actually using Harman sound system here, on Windows at least. And I was surprised at how well they sounded for being down-firing. Unfortunately, on Bazzite, you don't have access to that sound system, and you kind of need to set up your own EQ. There is also a second USB-C 4.0 port at the bottom. There's ports everywhere. And then there's a micro SD card slot, of course. On the front, we have the start and select buttons where they should be, which is on the left and right of the screen. On the bottom left is the Steam menu button, in Bazzite at least, which is mostly what I use. Then on the bottom right, there is a turbo button, and that'll open Handheld Daemon inside of Bazzite, or it'll open the OneX console in Windows. And then there's a keyboard button right above it, and that opens the keyboard in Windows, and in Bazzite, it is the Steam Quick Access menu. On the front are Hall Effect sticks, but they are not full-size sticks as you would expect from something like an Xbox controller, for example. But I actually like these quite a bit. They have nice range, they fit nicely with the handheld size, and I have 0 complaints about these at all. They're really good. The D-pad, on the other hand, is fine, but I do find that it hurts my thumb quite a bit, and I'm not sure why. It has little bumps on each of the directions, while the center is sloped inwards, and that probably could be why, but I find that the tip of my thumb just gets sore using it for long periods. On the right are some very nice buttons. Again, super silent here, nice travel. This is the handheld to get if you want just silence as you play. I am a very big fan of these, and that super silent part comes into effect when we talk about the fan and everything later on. Taking a look at the specs, and this is a very beefy PC handheld, and it can get even beefier. We have the Ryzen AI 9 HX370 processor inside of the one that I have today, but they also do sell an 8840U version and an AI 9 365 version. This has the Radeon 890M GPU inside. My model here has 32GB of LPDDR5X, 7500 RAM, 1TB of M2 2280 PCIe 4.0 storage, an absolutely gorgeous 7-inch OLED 144Hz 1080p display with 800 nits of brightness, but it is not variable refresh rate, of course. 49 watt-hour battery and Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.2. Now, ergonomically, tying this all together, the OneXFly is one of the comfiest handhelds that I've had the pleasure of owning. There is a list of handhelds out there in the world. The number of actually comfortable handhelds, at least for my hands, is very, very small. I found the Ally to be uncomfortable, but the Ally X to be very comfortable. The Steam Deck is very comfortable, but obviously very big. Anbernic RG556 and RG557 are very comfortable. Odin 2 Portal, that sort of thing. This fits right into there, and I think I might put it at the top of the list, right next to the RG556 and 557. The one complaint that I have ergonomically about this device is the plastic makes it so it's a little bit slippery in your hands, but because of how small it is, it's not exactly hard to hold, so it doesn't come into play a lot. I had that complaint with the Odin 2 Portal, that's why I buy the grip for it. I don't think you need a grip for this, given how small it is in comparison from the height perspective, but it is very comfortable. One other minor complaint is I have noticed there's a bit of a weight imbalance, so the left side of the device is a little bit heavier than the right side, and I'm not sure why that is. I'd have to do a teardown and take a look inside of it, but it's a little bit something that you notice right away, that it's a little bit heavier on the left than the right, which you kind of get used to after a while. Overall, this should pretty much be studied from a comfort perspective as to what they did here with just the ergonomics and comfort, because every other company should replicate this because of how good it is. On the screen front, they have a fantastic panel here, and it is one of the standouts of the device in a list of standouts. The 7-inch OLED 144Hz screen is just fantastic to use. Easier with Bazzite, of course, thanks to the easy switching available to you with the quick access menu. But for games that can utilize the full 144 Hz, it's a beautiful experience. Taking a look at the software, and I think at this point everybody is sort of familiar with SteamOS and Bazzite and how all of that works. And that's all the same here. So let's take more of a look at the Windows side. The turbo button opens the One X console right up, which unlike MSI Claw's software, seems to work and open every time I try to do it. So that's a great thing. But from here, you can adjust the TDP, you can adjust the fan mode as well as the curves. And I have applied my own custom curve, as you can see. There is rumble settings, and then we have a bunch of toggles for different things like the display, RGB, performance overlay, and so on. Things that you would expect on a PC handheld. But they have taken it even further. My favorite addition here is the game trainers section. It'll detect if the game that you're playing has any trainers, which are cheats for anybody not familiar, and then if it does, it'll show them as available to you in this menu, and you can easily enable or disable the cheats using the menu. This honestly is just fantastic as somebody who does use trainers often. Recently, they've gone even further and they added something called the Handy Kit, which adds a whole bunch of new tiles for return to desktop, minimize window, task manager, control panel, and so on. Just handy, cool shortcuts that you can access using the controls instead of having to tap all around the screen. Now at the bottom, you can head into their game launcher, and you can use that as a front end if you want, or you can customize your controller, do some updates, and honestly, there is a ton here that you can get into. There is more than I expected here, and there's more that I'm seeing here than some of the bigger brand OEM devices that we've come to see in Best Buy and wherever you can buy devices. This unknown Chinese company has actually put the effort in, and it is really cool how much they've done here. Lastly, there is a keyboard button, and that'll bring up their keyboard overlay, which you can navigate using the actual controls on the handheld, and that is just great. If you hold the keyboard button, you can then use the sticks and controls to navigate windows using the cursor, so it is pretty handy. Overall, this is an actually really good experience on the Windows side that I just wasn't expecting. Now, I talked about standout features of this device, but one of the biggest standouts to me is the fan and the cooling. The device does not get hot. The fan isn't an annoying fan. It's not coil line. It's not in your face. It's none of that. I would consider it very close to the Ally X in how it does it. You hear the actual air being blown out, but you don't hear any whine, you don't hear anything else, nothing to take you out of the gaming experience. For those of you familiar with a GPD product like the Win Mini, the Win 4, and that sort of thing, you know that the fan can be fairly annoying in those scenarios. Not so with this device. It is a beautiful experience on the cooling part and the fan part. One of the standouts, again, it's a list of standouts here, but one of the things that I love about this device is that I don't have to worry about it. I can play my games, the sound of the game overrides the fan noise, and I don't have to worry about it. It's cooling the device, and it plays great. For so long, the Ally X was one of the rare handhelds that could do that for me, and I'm sure a lot of users who have had the X know that feeling. This is another one. So whatever they're doing here needs to be replicated by other companies. If you are listening, other companies, take this apart, figure out what they're doing, and replicate it because it is amazing. The battery is going to be one of the rare negatives about this device, as it is the same conversation that we've been having for months about batteries inside of PC handhelds. But the 49 watt-hour battery can die very quickly if you are pushing this device to the max 30 watt TDP. That is roughly an hour to an hour and a half of use depending on the game. For example, if you cranked it up and played Cyberpunk, then yeah, you'd kill it in an hour. However, a more normal TDP is 15 watts, which is what I like to use. And having tested this chip thoroughly with other devices, the 15 watt TDP on this device is equal to about 28 watts of TDP on something like the ROG Ally X. That is extremely powerful, and it also means that for the most part, you'll see a 2-hour battery life for hard-hitting games. You can take the TDP down lower for emulation and other indies if you want it to last longer, but battery will continue to be the Achilles heel for most of these devices for a little bit. And that brings us to the performance conversation. And typically, this is where I would show off Cyberpunk and Forza Horizon 5 and all of those games, and we'll be like, hey, look how good these games look. Because yeah, you can play those and you can play them well, but I find the sweet spot for handhelds like this is a lot more of the awesome games that just don't get shown enough. Games like Persona 5 Royal, Fantasy Life, Yakuza, Triangle Strategy, Octopath Traveler 2, where you can keep the TDP low and get high frame rates and make use of the device in a lot of different ways. But yeah, you can play Forza Horizon 5 and Cyberpunk and all of that all day long if you want to, and you have a charger next to you. Going back to the cooling part, the best part about this device is that you can crank that TDP 230 watts, not feel warmth, and you don't hear an obnoxious fan either, and you can just keep it connected to the charger and play, and play, and play. It is so good. So yeah, that's me gushing for however long this video is going to be, I don't know. It's not often that I get a handheld like this that I don't even feel regret buying it. I don't feel regret spending the money to buy this because of how good it is. And yeah, it is a price increase over an Ally X. It isn't as cheap as that is, but I can see the upgrades here. If it had an 80 watt hour battery, I don't even know if anybody would wait for another handheld. That is how good it is. That is the one negative that I have for this handheld. Besides the little mini things like the D-pad and that sort of thing, the battery life is really the only negative. Otherwise, I can gush about this handheld all day long. So if you have an unlimited budget and you want a PC handheld, there's no doubt in my mind, after owning so many of these things, pretty much having every single PC handheld that's ever come out, the OneXFly F1 Pro, absolutely top of the list, for sure. Right next to the Ally X, OneXFly F1 Pro is right there. Pick one of those two and go off and enjoy the handheld, because that's where we're at. OneXPlayer, a relatively unknown Chinese company, made one of the best PC handhelds in our space. That's going to be it for this one. Let me know in the comments below, is this on your radar at all? I know I am late for this one. It has been months. It has been out for a while, but I should have gotten to this sooner, really, honestly. Now that I have it, I really should have gotten to this sooner because that's how good it is. The next OneXFly that comes out, as long as it is pretty close to this, you can count me as one of the first people to buy that, 100%. Don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow. Come join me on the Discord to talk all about handhelds and retro handhelds. Support me on Patreon if you like my stuff. And hope you all have a good one.